Hello and welcome to the Cinema Explainer. Today I will explain the 2014 action thriller film, The Equalizer. The movie starts with a man named Robert McCall who gets up early to go to work at a home mart in Boston. McCall is an organized and disciplined man who lives a quiet life. He's respected and well-liked amongst his co-workers who have no idea of his past. On this day, he has lunch with his friend and co-worker Ralphie, whom he is in the process of helping lose weight. McCall reminds Ralphie he's supposed to be dropping weight for his test to become a security guard. That's why he needs to have a good diet. Like every evening, McCall goes to a local 24/7 diner where he reads books and drinks tea. A young prostitute with whom it is implied. Robert talks now and then, asks McCall if the man in the book has caught the fish. He says not yet. All of McCall's young co-workers ask him what he used to do in his past. He jokes that he was a pip with Gladys Knight, doing a little dance for them. He goes back to the diner that night and runs into the same girl. As they are talking, a limo pulls up across from the diner. She then gets a call from her pimp, Slavy, who sends her off with a client she didn't want to go with. The next night, McCall finds the girl at the diner. She has a bruise on her face, nervous, looking for a quiet voice. She decides to break their usual protocol and sits with him at his table. She introduces herself as Terry, although her real name is Alina. She hands McCall a CD that she recorded of herself singing, hoping to get his opinion later. The two of them leave the diner talking and walking for a while. As they're about to part ways for the night, a car pulls up to them. It is Slavy and his driver Tavi. Slavy gets out and slaps Alina. McCall considers interfering, but is called off by Alina. Robert notices Tavi has a gun in his hand. Slavy hands McCall a card for his business and suggests he picks another girl. Without seeing Alina for a few days and nights, worried McCall learns from the diner's manager that Alina is in the ICU after being beaten badly. McCall goes there and sees Alina's face even more bruised and messed up. Alina's friend Mandy reveals to McCall that Slavy hit Alina and she hit him back. Slavy got mad and made an example out of her. After a few days, McCall finally decided to act. Using the card Slavy gave him, McCall goes to Slavy with $9,800 and tells him that he will give him this money in exchange for Alina's freedom. But Slavy refuses and mocks McCall. McCall takes the money back and starts to walk out. He almost leaves, but then decides to stay and locks the door. After carefully observing the men and whatever weapons they may be holding, he sets the timer on his watch and moves into action. One of the men aims his gun at McCall, but he grabs the man's arm and causes him to shoot Slavy in the throat. He then jabs a shot glass into that man's eye. He stabs the third man with his knife and then gets a corkscrew and repeatedly stabs Tavi until he sticks it under his chin and finishes him off. Following the murders, a Russian mobster named Teddy arrives in Boston to investigate what happened to Slavy and his men. He teams up with a group of corrupt cops to gain leads. At work, McCall notices Ralphie isn't in. McCall visits a restaurant that Ralphie's mother owns. Ralphie is helping her after a fire broke out, supposedly by accident. Meanwhile, Teddy is taken by one of the crooked cops, Frank, to the workplace of a gangster named John Looney to continue his search for the killer. John insults Teddy and all Russians in general. In response, Teddy kills John while Frank kills John's goons. The other two dirty cops are threatening Ralphie's mother to burn her restaurant again if she did not pay them protection money. The next day, McCall meets both of the cops and plays a video he took of them extorting a convenience store clerk, during which they confess to starting the fire at the restaurant. The cops hold him at gunpoint, but McCall quickly beats them both. They comply and later return the money to Ralphie's mother. Soon after, McCall is seen playing baseball with his co-workers when Ralphie shows up in a security guard uniform, having passed his test. Back at work, Robert goes to see Jenny, a cashier, when he notices she's dealing with a man silently committing a robbery at gunpoint. He convinces Jenny to hand over all the money and her mother's ring. McCall observes the robber and his car. The next day, Jenny finds her ring in the register, and McCall is seen returning the sledgehammer to the rack after wiping it clean. Meanwhile, Teddy finds out about Alina missing from Slavy's girls and questions Mandy. Scared Mandy tells Teddy about that kind black man who also came by and inquired about Alina, although she never found out who he was. Teddy then strangles her to death for lying to him. Pretending to be a detective, Teddy visits McCall at his apartment, who sees through him right away, but still answers his questions with his prepared answers. Teddy leaves feeling McCall is a lot more than he lets on. Teddy gets the feeling that everything they know about McCall is just made-up information. Teddy sends a muscular guy to the diner in a worker's dress where McCall is eating. McCall asks that guy what he does. He says that he is a worker. The man pulls out a gun and walks over to McCall, but he kills him by slamming his head down on the table and breaking his neck. He walks out of the diner and snaps photos of Teddy and his men in their car with his cell phone before walking away. The gangsters follow McCall home, but he can escape after hitting a man who works for Teddy, but he turns out to be a dirty cop. McCall took the cop's badge and cell phone. After that, he boils some honey to tend to a wound sustained by the gunman. McCall has planted evidence in his apartment that he is leaving town. but Teddy doesn't buy it. McCall does leave town, but only to visit his old friends Brian and Susan Plummer. They have a history of working together for some intelligence agency. McCall asks Susan for information about Teddy and the people he works for. When she returns, she tells McCall that the men he killed were part of the Russian mafia led by Vladimir Pushkin. Teddy, whose real name is Nikolai, who works for Pushkin, is a very dangerous man. Robert leaves the next morning after getting Susan's blessing to be the man he once was to finish what he started. McCall finds Frank Masters and traps him in his car. He tells Frank he better give him useful information about Pushkin's operations, or he'll leave him in the car to die. Frank takes McCall to a warehouse where the Russians count and stash huge pallets full of money. McCall ties the gangsters up in a room with all the money for the cops to find. He then frees all the workers and gives them a departing bonus. McCall asks Frank to call the police and tell them what happened. Then the police come and arrest Frank, and they find all the illegal money, and they also find all Pushkin's men tied up. McCall also finds one of Pushkin's oil tankers and blows it up along with several trucks and a warehouse. Teddy calls in a team of assassins from Russia to help him track down and take out McCall. As he's having dinner with the team leader goes to the bathroom. A few moments later, McCall sits in front of Teddy and drops the bloody sunglasses from the team leader, letting Teddy know he won't come back. Nikolai, with his new team of gangsters, goes to the place where McCall works and takes Ralphie, Jenny, and other Home-Mart employees hostage, with the threat that they will kill them unless McCall meets Nikolai. The villains track his cell phone and await his arrival. When he doesn't show up at the meeting place, the henchmen in Home-Mart prepare to execute one of McCall's co-workers. The music suddenly begins playing over the intercom. Teddy and his other hired hands come to Home-Mart. They try to find McCall and are steadily killed one by one as McCall stealthily moves about the darkened warehouse, setting traps with tools found on location. Teddy finds Ralphie and is about to shoot him when McCall comes out of hiding and shoots him in the throat with a stud ramset gun. 3 days later, McCall shows up in Pushkin's bathroom while he's showering in his Moscow home. He had made the water tap open and put the live electric wires in the ground. When Pushkin came out to call the guards, he was electrocuted and died. McCall returns to Boston to resume his quiet life. One day, bringing home groceries, he's approached by Alina, who's recovering from her injuries. She tells him she's gotten a real job and has started to do some reading. She also revealed she found an envelope with almost $10,000 inside, with her stuff when she left the hospital. She kisses him on the cheek before they bid each other farewell. Here the movie ends. Thank you for watching.